Hi, I'm Dale Jensen. I'm horrible on camera, but I'm pretty good in the shop. Let me go show you what I just made.
We're going to build a console and a coffee table. They came out really cool. It's for a customer I've done pieces for before. Super cool dude. He does his own wood tops, and they come out really, really sharp. So it's a lot of forging, a lot of just kind of an organic look, which is kind of fun. Don't get to do it that much. There's the template that he brought me of the wood tops for the console and the coffee table, and now we're cutting material so that we can start building it. Getting parts set up to build the frame for the coffee table, and now we're rolling the parts for the curve. So the roll is a really important piece of equipment that we have in the shop. It's does a lot of work. The angle, we're rolling angle. Angle is not an easy thing to roll. It wants to go all over the place. It doesn't roll nice and straight and true. So every time you roll it, you have to straighten it out. So this is me unrolling it, which kind of straightens it and helps. And if you roll it a little too far, you can unroll it. And like I said, sometimes it really works well to roll it past and then come back, and it helps straighten it. Once you get the curved parts made, rolled, you start cutting the weird angles to make this thing. Get the frame and the pieces made up for the top so that you can start building your legs and stuff. So you get your top frame built and cut your angles, miter all your parts, get everything cleaned up, ready to weld up. Again, these are kind of odd angles, so you only have one or two of them, so it's really not worth setting up the saw for. You just kind of miter them and then get them in place and come back and weld them and tack them in place, get them welded up, make a frame out of it. Once you get it all welded up, then you start getting it cleaned up and start getting ready for legs. This is having to straighten that angle after. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's usually a lot of hammering and bending and work. So this is the top frame for the console, all put together, ready to go, getting it welded up. This is the plasma. We use a plasma torch. It's a Heath oxygraph. This is old school technology. This is like early 70s. This is probably the most state-of-the-art thing in our shop. You draw a black line on a piece of paper, and the electric eye will follow the black line on the piece of paper. So we're cutting out the disc. This is George. He's cutting out the discs for the feet to cap off the feet on the bottom of the feet. This is the tubing for the feet. George is tacking the pieces that he just cut on the oxygraph out so that the feet will be capped. And this is when he was done with them. That's the parts for the feet. Now we're cutting the bar for the legs. These are for the main legs. This is 3/8 by 3 bar, so it's pretty heavy stuff. Once you get them cut, you toss them in the forge and get them hot. They're going to get a random twist pattern in them, so it's kind of organic. When you're doing organic stuff, you don't want parts to be exactly the same. Stuff that's exactly the same doesn't really happen in nature. These parts weren't that big. I could handle them myself. As you'll see in a second, the parts for the console were a lot longer and heavier, so I had George help me with them. And again, it's kind of an organic feel. You don't want them perfectly straight. You don't really have to stress over them being a little twisted or a little anything. It's kind of a natural feel. Because the heat on it isn't perfectly even all the way down the piece, you kind of have to start where it's cooler sometimes and bend it there and then work your way down. If you just grab it on an end and start twisting it, it won't twist where you want it. It'll just twist where it's hottest. So if you want it twisted someplace in particular, you have to make it twist there. And yeah, gravity still works. Once you get them twisted and cooled down enough, you stick them in the bandsaw and chop them down. These parts had enough tail on them that I could use the bandsaw to cut them. The parts for the console, I think I used a cutting torch. Once you get them cut, you can stick them on the frame. Get them tacked in place. And kind of stand back and look and see if you like the position and the angles and all that. Once you're happy with it, you can stick the feet on, start getting stuff welded up, start putting the, I guess, ornamentation on them. Starting the first limb coming up, for lack of a better term. Just get it welded in place and you start putting heat to it. Clamp it in place, weld it up. When you start something like this, you kind of need to heat the whole thing. You can do it a little bit at a time, but you don't want to necessarily leave any of it unheated because you want it all to be curved. You don't want straight sections in it. So you have to really pay attention, make sure you curve the entire piece. You don't have weird straight sections in it. It's just kind of a feel thing. As you're putting heat to it, you can feel it move. You can control where you want it to bend with a torch. And again, it's just kind of a feel thing and organically what looks right. Ended up being 3 to 6 pieces per leg. I think only one of them had 3 pieces on it. So there were a lot of parts to do in this. You just heat it up, again, bend it up and make it look right. Make it look, like I said, organic. Kind of makes your brain hurt sometimes because you start bending something, you're like, oh no, the last one went that direction, this one has to go different. I use some square bar in the twigs, limbs, and in order for it to not look out of place, you went back and hammered it so that it would have some texture and some interest to it. You can make it go about anywhere you want. Just add a little heat, have a little patience. I wish it moved this fast. I wish you could heat it up in like 5 seconds. But the actual time to heat something like that is, I mean, you're standing there a minute. A little bit of cleanup on the feet. And this one's pretty close to done. I wish I could move that fast. Hell, I don't think that fast. Kind of a beauty shot of it before it's wire brush. And Travis going to town with wire brush, getting all cleaned up. So this is another table that just gets wire brushed and a matte clear coat finish. Now we're putting parts in the forge to heat up for the console. George helping me with these longer pieces. There's just a lot of heat coming off that. The amount of radiant heat coming off something like that is pretty serious. So, when 2 of you can get on it, it helps. Even though it's hot, it still takes a little bit of a grunt to get it around there. George and I have worked together for a long time. We work together really well. I said you don't have to make them look exactly the same. You don't want them to be the same, which is actually kind of tricky to do. My favorite tool, the cutting torch. Old school technology, but it works so good, especially for cutting bigger pieces. See, these pieces don't have very long tails, so I can't use them I can't do them in the bandsaw. Just grab cutting torch, cut them off. If you're good with a cutting torch, it works really, really well. You can cut thick stuff with a torch like that. Not the perfect cut, but not bad. Okay, we're starting the console. Putting the legs on. I think it's 4 legs. The coffee table got 5. Clean it up so the little feet fit on. Yep, foot fits. Tack it in place. And start putting the limbs on. Just start wrapping it around. Add some heat. Keep going. Piece after piece. Not a big deal. More heat, more hammer, more heat, a little twist. And you can see how I'm pretty much heating up every inch of it. You don't want to not heat some of it because it's going to leave like a straight section in it. With it being all smooth and curvy, you don't want straight sections in it. They stand out really bad. You gotta make it look different from the last one, because none of them can be the same. It's a lot of gas, there's a lot of heat. The flame itself puts off a lot of heat, but the glowing steel, the infrared coming off of it, is what really kind of gets to you after a while. This is iron worker. It'll punch holes, it'll shear pieces like that. It's like a giant pair of scissors. Miter stuff. It's pretty cool. It works really well. Trim off the end pieces with a torch, then come back and grind it, get everything detailed out. The little brown bottle and green bottle behind me are oxygen and acetylene. The acetylene a gas and oxygen is oxygen. It makes the acetylene burn a lot hotter and a lot more aggressively. And that's where all the fire is coming from right now. And the amount of fire in those bottles is ridiculous. With all of this heating that I did for all these legs and everything, except for the part that was in the forge, all of the limbs were heated with oxygen acetylene. And I only went through like 2 oxygen, 2 acetylene on this entire project. Come back, clean stuff up. Finish work details. It's all about the details. Started wire brushing it, getting it cleaned up, ready to go. Once it's all wire brushed and cleaned up, it's off to the paint booth again. Shooting a matte clear on it for the finish coat. It's kind of fun. I don't like being in the paint booth, it's loud. I'm not a big fan of wearing a respirator, but you can get in and out pretty quick. Try and be systematic, try and do the legs, then do the frame. This is an automotive clear coat. It's really good stuff. Little beauty shot before the top goes on. I think they came out really cool. I think they're good looking pieces. The customer supplied the design. His wife found the design on Pinterest or something like that and brought it to us. And there's the console. Travis and I setting the top down. A giant piece of walnut, black walnut. Good looking piece. I think the finished product's really sharp. I'm super happy with how it came out. The customer was very pleased too. If you have a piece you want us to build for you, let me know. Be more than happy to help you. If you have any suggestions of what I should build next, let me know. Always look for new projects.